So my name is Amy Elizabeth Parsons. I'm presently the interim coordinator for disability programs, but my background is in education. I taught many students with diverse needs in an inclusive classroom, and I also worked in a resource setting. And I spent over a decade as a school administrator. And I was the principal of a school that catered to neurodiverse students and struggling students with social emotional issues. So that's my background for today.
Yes, and my name is Cynthia Miller-Lotman. I was with some of you yesterday, and I'm an occupational therapist by training, and I worked for years in a special needs school, a Summit School in Montreal. I also have two daughters with ADHD and a husband with ADHD, and one son who is neurotypical. I've always had a passion for trying to make things real for people, and so that people can leave learning how to do something and use it. So that is our goal today, to really teach you about how to use a visual schedule. And we've brought videos and other things for you today. So you will need your pen and paper handy really soon. So if you can get that ready, that would be great. And remember that today's slides are on the website. And so everything we're talking about, if you want to remember, is in the handout on the website.
And we also want to let you know that our language today, because of our background with the Cree Health Board and also in education, the word client, learner, child, adult are all interchangeable because this really is something we're going to teach you that can be used for anybody. So when we say learner, it's the person receiving it. Any of those words are interchangeable for today's presentation.
Great. So people with disabilities can really benefit, as Trevor and Natalie said, from visual supports and also visual schedules. Can you imagine functioning in a world that is so heavy in language? Our world is so based in language and communication. But imagine you don't understand the language I'm speaking. But if I use a picture to tell you, that helps a lot. So what a visual schedule is. So we talked about visual supports earlier, but now a visual schedule is really a series of pictures in a row that helps the client or the learner know the steps in the task. For example, getting dressed, you could have a picture of all the steps of getting dressed. So a visual schedule is really about having the pictures there to tell the learner what is coming next, but also to decrease the stress. As Trevor mentioned in his story at the pizza parlor, where he was very stressed out if he didn't see it, the point of a visual schedule is to decrease stress. If it doesn't do that, you're doing something wrong, and you got to go back and be a detective. So that's what we're going to look at today. Our goal today is to teach you how to build a visual schedule, but also to practice with one. So this is where I would really like to do an activity with you first, so we can understand together what a visual schedule is. So I'll need everyone to be ready, including my team, if that's okay. I can't see your pictures for some reason, so I will imagine you showing. So maybe Amy, you'll describe what's happening.
Yep.
Perfect. So the activity I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a dance routine, and I would actually like you all to practice it. So I'm going to say a word and I want you to do the action. So if I say touch the floor, touch the floor. Okay. So we're going to do the activity. All right. The first word is touch your cup. Touch your cup. Okay. Touch your axle. Touch your knee. Touch your finger, fun fuss. Okay, guys, this isn't working. Let's try it again. Touch your cup, touch your axle, touch your knee, touch your finger, fun fuss. Okay, no one is doing this. I can see that. I'm going to have to think of some other way to get this communicated to you. So let's try again. I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm also going to say the word at the same time. Touch your cup. Touch your axle. Good job. Touch your knee. And touch your finger, fun fuss. Fantastic, guys. That's much better. Now I'm going to show you a picture of it all in a row, and I'd like you to do it all by yourself and see if in the chat you can guess what song I'm teaching you, what dance routine. Thank you, Amy. Does anyone guess what song that is? Does anyone know that song? Okay. Yes, it was head and shoulders, knees and toes. So the thing is that I was speaking to you in a language you probably didn't recognize. I was actually speaking in Yiddish. I was hoping to pick a language that most people here wouldn't know, because I know there's a lot of people here that probably speak a lot of different languages. So maybe you can put in the chat, how did you feel when you didn't understand the words I used? Also, if any of our panelists want to say it out loud, I'd be welcome to that too. How did you feel when you didn't understand? Logan was confused.
I felt frustrated.
Safian, frustrated, yes.
A little foolish for me because I didn't know. And then I was pointing to my finger and you definitely did not say finger is not in this.
Adelie was lost. Okay. Yeah. So when you don't understand the words that someone is saying to you, it can be really frustrating. And actually, over time, you just might stop tuning them in and you just might not pay attention anymore because you don't understand anyway. But you guys were all doing a great job trying to participate and listening for every word. And the minute I showed you a picture, you were right away so eager to do what I had said. So there's also a message in the chat that someone wanted to stop trying. So if we are communicating with a learner that does not understand what we are saying, it will bring frustration, disengagement, and maybe really some really negative behaviors because they don't understand.
So our next slide is a visual, and I'm going to call it a visual support because it helps. I'm going to match it with some words. It helps us to understand a little bit about why we would want to use visuals. So the first one is that feeling of being stressed out. So definitely a visual schedule can lower anxiety. It talks about visuals being permanent. So we heard this morning that words fly away and our pictures stay. And my absolute favorite one here is right at the bottom, center at the bottom. It says pictures. So visuals have no attitude. So many times when we have to repeat ourselves, we can become frustrated. We could also become bored because we're also repeating the same thing over and over again. And that is transmitted. That can be heard in the voice that we're using. So to avoid this, to avoid that voice change, we can let the visual schedule do the work for us.
So we think the next step is important to do together because we want to build the steps of a visual schedule. We cannot just make a visual schedule and hope for the best. We actually have to plan it out. We have to make sure, as Trevor and Natalie said, that it fits our learner and what they need. So in the chat, I'd like you to get close and start throwing out some answers for us. So the visual schedule we would like to build today is for a young child who is getting dressed to go outside in the winter. So think about what that means for a young child or the young child in your lives getting dressed to go outside. What would be the first thing you would put on that schedule to go play in the snow? What would be the first thing you would put on? Put it in the chat. There's not necessarily right or wrong. Okay. Snow pants. Someone wrote snow pants. Snow pants, snow pants. Okay, yeah, I think I would agree with that also. Trevor wrote snow pants and I took perfect. So snow pants. What would be the next thing you'd put on after you put on snow pants? Boots. Yep, that would make sense. Coat. Okay, perfect. Keep going. What would be next after you put on boots? Someone would put on a neck warmer. Great. Yes, there's jacket and mittens and hat and scarf. Great. Okay, so you see there's a lot of steps in creating a schedule of getting dressed. No wonder we get upset with 3-year-olds that they're not independent, but there's a lot of things they have to do. Okay, thanks everyone. That was great. So yes, I'll enter that and we said snow pants, boots, get them all, neck warmer, yes, jacket, hat, mitts. We did. Okay, fantastic. So Now I would like you to do something. Now you need your paper and pencil. Please draw 6 boxes, just like this on your paper. Amy, I won't be able to see you, but maybe you can show us your boxes that you've
Yes.
drawn.
So I just have a scrap piece of paper and I just took my pen and made very uneven, probably rectangles in a row.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Trevor. Great.
Okay, so now take your boxes and turn them this way. Do not write these words in it though. Just turn your boxes vertically now. Okay. Now I want you to try out your drawing skills. They do not need to be very good. I just need you to attempt to draw a pair of snow pants in the first box. So go ahead right now and draw a pair of snow pants in the first box. Then go on to draw boots in the second, neck warmer in the third, and so on and so on. I'll just give you a minute. And Amy, if you notice that people are seeming done, if you could show us what you've drawn.
Just making my hat with a nice big pom-pom here. And
Great. So again, you're drawing a picture in each one of those 6 boxes.
not that I want this live, but that would be, again, thanks, Trevor. That's great too, artist. We've just taken our pen and drawn a very basic stick figure or sketch. Great.
So if you're in a group, show each other your pictures. So I know Minnie's Hope is together. I think there's some more people together. So show your colleagues your pictures, because you all might have different pictures of what you describe as boots and snow pants and what kind of hat you draw. Have a good laugh. It's okay if you're not a great drawer. But really what you just did, and you should be proud of yourselves, you just drew out your first visual schedule. So that can be as simple as that. It's important that it remains simple and easy and usable, because if not, you may never make one.
So we're going to, it's really interesting. Cynthia and I did our presentation independent of Trevor and Adelie, and we come from 4 different backgrounds, but each of us has learned through our studies and then through our experience, the importance of visuals, visual supports, and now we're showing you the visual schedule. So just to piggyback on what they said this morning, it can come in different ways. So our first way that we're going to show you again is live pictures, a picture that's, you can take with your camera, or you might have them saved somewhere. You can also have for a younger child, or as Trevor mentioned, it could just be someone who likes a more cartoonish sort of cute picture with different colors. And then finally, what we just did together, it could be a simple sketch and drawing that can be done. And again, we have some that are left to right and some that are up and down. What they all have in common is we want them to be simple, we want them to be specific, and most importantly, we want it to mean something to the learner. So again, what works best is the one that works best.
Yes, and you're right. Someone put in the chat earlier about, can it be an object? And yes, as Trevor and Adelie described, a visual support can be an object. So yes, you could also pair the object in these visual schedules. So the actual boots, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Great. So now we're going to just show you some more ideas. I'm just cleaning off my desk to make space here. So when I traveled up north, I went to look what was available for materials, and I wanted to show you different examples of visual schedules that Cynthia and I have worked with throughout the time we've been working with clients, and again, our students and learners. And the first one that I quite enjoy is the plastic sleeve. So the plastic sleeve, I'm going to show you in my camera. So the plastic sleeve can be bought. Sometimes they're at the Northern Store, Dollarama, right? And I'm just going to put my visual schedule and I'm just going to slide it in there. The visual schedule that I've chosen here, I found pre-made already on the computer, and it's about getting my vaccine. So I know in our house that was a little scary. What is that? What are the steps to a vaccine? So I went on the net and I found the steps to the vaccine, and I printed it out, and then I put it in my plastic sleeve. And what's fun about the plastic sleeve is I can take my Crayola marker, my washable marker, and I can actually write and draw on my plastic sleeve and wipe it off with a Kleenex or a sock. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So that would be the plastic sleeve. Our next example is Velcro. It's what's often seen on the computer when you look up a visual schedule. So I just took some cardboard, again, that I found at the store. I was hoping to choose a Go Stop, so my orange, red, and a green. And what I did is I just taped it together. Then I put 2 pieces of Velcro down, and I made a visual schedule about doing laundry, right? It's discreet. I open it up, and these are the steps that I have left to do. So according to my schedule, I know it's small for you. I pretty much done the washing, and I have the drying and the folding left to go, right? So this would be a Velcro schedule. So I'm just using Velcro to stick it up, and I've just used 2 pieces of cardboard. This one I quite liked as a teacher, just for it fits in your desk and filing, and that's a file folder. So on the front of the file folder, you can see in the picture, or what I'm holding up, is my visual schedule. So I've taken math as the first topic and moved it into my I'm doing this now. When I've completed that, I can move it into the finished, and we'll talk more about that later. And what I find interesting about this model is the other pictures, the other visuals that you might need for other subjects are ready inside, and they can be taken out on Tuesday if you need them on Tuesday, or if you need them on Wednesday. So again, you've got the ones you're using for the schedule and the ones you might need for the afternoon schedule or the next day schedule. So this would be, we're calling this the file folder. And then the last one that I want to present to you, this was the visual schedule for getting dressed. And again, I never taught kindergarten. I think I was only a substitute kindergarten teacher. But a lot of the kids would need the schedule. So you might want to hang it up. So that's a little backwards for you. You might want to hang this up. So as you can see on the picture, I've just cut out my photos. And again, in this case, I'm using clip art because I'm using it for many children. And I've just used clothes pegs. And again, all I'm doing here is I'm just choosing a design that might be, it's nicer to look at if you're putting it in your home, your front entranceway. It could be fun because the pegs open and close to hold it up. So again, any of these could work. It's knowing the interest of the person you're using the visual schedule with.
Okay, so now we thought we'd show you some video examples of how does it look like when someone's actually using a visual schedule. Okay, so we're going to show you 2. We're going to show you one of a younger child getting dressed, and we're going to show you one of an older teenager for his first job cleaning a weight room. So this first one is our colleague Arnaituk, who's here with us today. And she filmed her son doing the visual schedule that we kind of outlined today of getting dressed to go outside. So her son Walker is a 6-year-old boy, and he has a disability that was caused by a stroke that he had as a baby. And that led to many difficulties in his language and fine motor skills. But if Walker's environment, is adapted, such as using a visual schedule, and he is supported in using that, a lot of those difficulties are much less apparent. You don't notice them as much. So let's watch how he uses this visual schedule to make going outside and getting dressed go smoothly without tantrums and with some fun. Often getting dressed is really hard for young kids. We expect a lot of them, and especially when they enter school. There's 16 of them that all have to get dressed to go outside, and the teacher expects it to go quickly because they need to get out for recess. So it's really a great way to make an activity such as getting dressed more fun. So I would like you to also pay attention to how Walker really reinforces using the numbers in this video. There are pictures, but Arnaituk could actually put numbers like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which you won't see in the video, but watch how he also pays attention to that.
So I want you to get dressed, and you're gonna follow, look at this, snow pants, boots, neck warmer, coat, Hat.
Hat.
Mitts.
Mitts.
Okay, so that's number 1 is snow pants. Can you put on your snow pants for mommy?
Bubble ones.
Your brown ones here.
Bubble ones.
Mm-hmm. Good job, son.
This bubble too.
Well, you want to finish number 1? Can you zip up your snow pants, please?
And get that one.
Yeah.
Next. Bubble two.
Number 2.
Oh, two.
Yeah.
I am not.
Okay, put your boots on the ground. Put your boots on the ground. Like this. Can you put on your boots?
I get done one.
Yep.
I get done two.
Yeah, you got done number 2.
And I get done one.
Yep.
One, two.
Good job.
What has next? Bubble three.
Number 3. Number 3 is your neck warmer. Good job, Love Bug.
Bubble.
Number 4. Do you need help?
Yeah.
You need help with your zipper?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you finish pulling up your zipper now. I started it.
Yeah.
Yep. Good job.
Bubble five.
Number 5. Your hat. Yeah, your mittens after. Good job.
Okay. Bubble six.
Number 6 is your mittens. Yeah, they're the color blue.
I love me too.
You love your mittens? Do you need help putting on your mittens?
Yeah.
Okay.
2, 6.
Are you all done now? Are you ready to go outside? You're ready to go outside? Good job, son.
So you can see how he followed that schedule really well. He kept going back to check what was next to get ready. So he was really practicing using the visual schedule. And while Agnieszka was helping him along by coaching and encouraging him. So this next video I want to share with you is one of the frustrations sometimes we hear is visuals and visual schedules and visual supports are for younger clients. And not all the time. Actually, a lot of times, as we learned this morning, visual supports and visual schedules help all of us. So it can really help older students and older adults who also have disabilities and don't remember all the steps in language. So this next boy is 16 years old and it's his first job at a local gym, but he has an invisible disability. He can't read, and he has some other learning disabilities that affect his memory. But he's known to be very friendly and a great worker. So they're giving him a try at the gym. Now, he's able to do each of the tasks we're going to show you. Okay, so he has to wipe, sweep, and mop, but he has trouble following all the directions. So they determined to write out a visual schedule, and we tried that together to see if it would help him. Watch closely how he likes the feeling of checking something off. So this was added to his visual schedule. So like what Amy showed you before, to show that it's done, watch how he checks off all the time how it's done. So that was getting out the cleaning supplies. Next is wiping the equipment down. Then he checks it off. Next is sweeping. Next is mopping. And last is putting all the equipment away. So now that you've seen us using visual schedules, can you think of a client or a person in your life that may benefit from a visual schedule? I really want you to just close your eyes for just 10 seconds. Is there someone you can think of that might benefit from this? So maybe you have someone in mind. Is it someone that keeps missing their school bus? Is it an elder that doesn't want to leave the MSDC? Is there a type of client you would use it? If you want to add it in the chat, we'll add it. We'll look at it as we're continuing along, and I'll mention those out.
So Cynthia, I have two. One, I want to reiterate, I want to go back to using it with older clients. So even for myself, say you have a sports injury, you've hurt yourself and you're seeing a physiotherapist, and they give you 5 exercises to do in a row, and you're supposed to do them a certain way in 3 sets. And it's great. You learn how to do it, and off you go home. And you're like, oh, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. So for myself, with my therapist, I got a printout. But if it was just words talking about body parts, that's not my field of expertise. So what I get on my printout is an explanation of the exercise with a photo of the exercise being done. So I get that support one by one, each exercise one after the other, and that gives me my schedule. My second one is as personal as a mom. It was routine after school, working mom. My child comes in and it's a little bit of a disaster, where the school bag, the boots get thrown, the jacket, and my frustration level was going through the roof. So again, we sat down and we drew out a visual schedule on what 5 things, the order of the 5 things we were going to do when we came home from school, from putting away our boots, hat, and mitts, to snack, to homework time, to free time, TV or tablet time. So those would be 2 examples in my life.
Thanks, Amy. So this next section we're going to do, it's going to be Amy presenting on how to actually use the visual schedule.
So when we were talking about this, we we're really trying to break it down. So we have made a visual schedule, but now how do we use it? So I'm going to start back about the making it. So creating that visual, we all did that together. The first step we needed to do was really break down the activity. The most important part of creating a schedule is knowing how many steps we're going to need. So some clients just need categories. So just think of the school schedule at high school. You just have the categories. It's math, then French, then science, then Cree culture class, right? So it's very broad. While others are going to need the steps broken down, they're going to need a schedule within. An example could be, it's time for art, it's time for painting. It could just be a picture of somebody painting or a visual that represents painting for them. But someone else is going to need the steps broken down. So they're going to need to see that picture of it's time to paint. Then a picture that the next step is for them to put on an old shirt so their clothes don't get dirty. The next picture might be to go and get the paintbrush and the paint. And then the last picture is the paintbrush in the paint, ready to go. So again, it's knowing your learner, knowing the client, and knowing how many boxes you're going to need to make for your schedule. All right, so now we have our schedule. So this was talked a lot about this morning. It's about teaching the picture. So sometimes we're going to have the cartoon picture, and we need to match it with boots. Maybe that's all we have. And so we're going to say, this is our picture of boots. So we're really going to need to say what we mean, what we need to teach that picture. And sometimes it's really difficult to find an action picture. So again, we're going to need to pair it with words. We're going to need to do that compliment that Trevor talked about this morning, so that the learner knows what the picture means. Again, so we're going to say it as we show it. And my favorite part about this is teaching vocabulary. I guess it's that teacher in me. But if you notice, Arnie took in a video we showed with her son getting dressed, all that opportunity for language development, right? It wasn't just about let's look at pictures. We were complementing pictures with words. And in his case, he loves that numbers. He was attracted to the numbers. So he just spent about 10 minutes going over his sequence of numbers, practicing saying words, hearing them say it correctly, and also practicing getting dressed. So all of that because of supports in that 15-minute period. The next thing we're going to do is teach the schedule. So we've taught the individual pictures, but we can't assume that our learner knows that they come in an order, right? We can't assume that they start at the top and go to the bottom, or they start at the left and they go to the right. So you need to teach where to start, and then, and again, that could be, we'll get into this in a bit, using your finger, using numbers, using letters, or just pairing words with the pictures. Again, so we've taught the pictures, and now we're going to teach that it's a sequence, that it's a schedule. Our colleagues talked about this morning. It's about modeling, showing, and demonstrating. So that could be a support on its own, but it's very important in teaching the routine, because again, a picture of boots might say, oh, I'm just going to get the boots. It doesn't mean I need to put the boots on. So we need to, again, teach that picture. What do we mean when we see that picture? And what do we do when we see that picture? So if I have a picture of my mittens, I've got my mittens here, I didn't bring boots, and I have a picture of mittens, I'm going to model when I get my mittens, if I'm able to, I'm going to put them on. Or in the video we showed, the mom was ready, knowing that her child needed assistance to put on, we put on the mitts. So again, modeling is very important. So we've taught the pictures, we know it has an order, and now we're going to show you what those pictures mean, what the action is attached to the picture. So number 5, reminding, prompting, and cueing. So it's important to remind our client to use their schedule. The schedule needs to be somewhere where the client can see it. Often they need to touch it. Again, if you looked at Walker, he was touching and mom was touching to show where it goes. Again, that depends on the client that you're working with. They want to go and see what's next. It really reassures and takes the stress away. So again, the adult might need to start by prompting, showing, let's look here, moving with our finger. We might need to gesture. We might need to point where the gloves can be found. And then we might need to add some hints and reminders as we're teaching them how to use the visual schedule. And our goal, right, because when we first looked at why to use a visual schedule, one reason is to bring independence, that one day our learner is doing this by themselves. So right now we're teaching, we're prompting, we're cueing, we're giving reminders, but hopefully one day our goal is that the learner picks up on cues. And an example of that at a school would be when the recess bell rings, the client would go and get their visual schedule, or they know where their visual schedule is on the wall, and they would start doing the steps. So that's our goal with reminding, prompting, and then cueing. Showing done. So Cynthia mentioned this in the video of the young man who was cleaning. He liked to show done, to show that it was finished. It can give a lot of people the sense of accomplishment. I know when I have a to-do list, I really like to scratch it off. I actually don't like deleting, and this is myself, because I like to see that I accomplished a big long list. So I actually like crossing things out or putting a check mark. So in some of the schedules that we showed you this morning, they have an opportunity for showing done. So in the Velcro schedule, it's moving it from one side. Oh, that great sound of pulling it off. and putting it over here, that can show, hey, I've done it. I have more on the done side than on the beginning side. In our schedule here, if you want to make a file folder with this model, we're taking it off the now box and we're moving it to the finish box. And again, it's fun to see that we finished something. On our plastic sleeve,
Sorry, Amy.
that's all right. In our plastic sleeve, we have our marker. We can do our check off. We can do a scribble. And again, 3 vaccinations. So I can use this 3 times with just wiping it off. I don't have to make a new schedule. And then finally, if I'm choosing to use this model, I can show done if I want by taking pictures off. So again, it's just to ask the learner if they like that feeling of done. Okay. And then the last one that's really important is praise. So many clients respond well to praise for a job well done. I know I like it when someone says well done, is job well done. The key that we want to share with you is that it needs to be authentic, right? The person needs to feel that it's the truth that you're saying. So you heard some of the words that Arnichuk used for her good job son and love bug. Now, if I would go over there and use those words, it's not really the connection that I have with Walker. So with Walker, I might say, wow, good zipping, right? Because I'm telling the truth. That was like great. He did it halfway up himself. I can always remember a story when I was a school principal of a 12-year-old boy who did not yet know how to read, school absences and other things going on in his life, and he hadn't yet learned to read. And he was going to resource getting help and learning his alphabet and learning words. And at one time, the adult said to him, like, wow, you're super awesome. That's great. And the 12-year-old looked at the adult and said, no, there's nothing awesome about this. I'm 12 years old and I can't read. So they didn't feel that that praise matched what they needed. So after a discussion, so again, as adults, we can make mistakes all the time. It's about what do we do when we learn that we've made a mistake or something's not working. It was chosen that the feedback was how many words the student had learned. So it was more, great job, 12 words today. You have 12 new words in your vocabulary or 10 new words. It's really important to put your detective hat on and figure out what praise is best. We'll talk about what schedule is best. We talked about what visual support is best. It's the same thing. Is this someone who wants to be praised in front of everybody? Or is this the silent thumbs up that's discreet, that teenager who doesn't want everybody looking, but still wants to know they're doing a great job? So again, being a detective, all of these are good choices. It depends what your client or your learner feels best receiving.
Okay, so we just made a summary slide for you just to remind you of all the steps, and I can put it in the context of Arnichuk working with Walker. So she created the visual schedule. She was teaching the pictures by saying coat, boots. She was pointing and teaching. She taught the schedule in what order, this comes next, what comes next. And she modeled, right? She had the boots there. She sometimes brought the boots to him. So he knew exactly what she meant. She reminded and cued him when he wanted to go on to the next thing, but he hadn't finished zipping up his zipper. She reminded and cued him. She showed done by saying, all done, good job. Are you ready to go outside? And she gave lots of praise. So these are the steps of how to use a visual schedule. If you skip some of them or a lot of them, you're probably not going to have the success of having it work. And then we've heard a lot of people in Amy and my career of people saying visual schedules don't work. Well, they don't work if you skip a lot of these steps. So make sure you teach, praise, model, and create a visual schedule that fits your learner. So that being said, it didn't always work for us either. And when we were learning to use visual schedules, we ran into a lot of things that caught us up and we realized, oh, it's not working. So one of the first things that I realized when I was creating visual schedules for clients is that I needed to capture their interest. I could not make a visual schedule with my agenda and everything that I wanted them to get done. I had to make a visual schedule that was in our both interests and was absolutely motivating to them. So the point of visual schedule is to decrease stress. So if on that visual schedule, I put 6 out of the 7 things that are something they don't want to do, that is not going to go well, guaranteed. The other thing is, even let's say I've come up with a whole bunch of things on that schedule that really mean something to them and things that they do and can be proud of, but I don't capture their interest. And I put that visual schedule up on the wall, and then the child walks into the classroom and I'm upset because they didn't do the visual schedule. What do you mean they didn't do it? Well, maybe I didn't capture their interest enough. So the first thing is, do I have activities on there that motivate them and that they can do successfully? Or is it something that they're not able to do at all? So they'll just be super frustrated. And then two, we're going to watch a video of, you've got to capture their interest as you're teaching the visual schedule. You've got to get them to come look at it. And as we know, there are children with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD that maybe will not be paying attention to what everything that's going on around them. So you need to capture them. So watch this music therapist wanting her class to learn how and to follow her visual schedule. She uses song.
First we'll sing hello, then we'll read a book, we'll play with scarves, and then we'll sing, we'll count, and then we'll say goodbye.
So by using song, the kids would probably be excited and they'd feel good and they'd want to look with her at her visual schedule. But we can never force. We need to keep trying. You would not physically bring a child and force them to look at it like that. You would want to encourage it and you want it to come from them. So you be creative. Watch how this next video uses different ways to be creative to capture the attention of high school students.
Are you gonna hear my voice clap once? You're gonna hear my voice clap twice. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 0. 0.
Woo!
There it is.
Woo!
There it is.
So Amy, I'll pass this off to you now.
Great. So sometimes pictures aren't enough. So we've talked about it before. Our colleagues talked about pairing it with language. So if we're getting confused, if we're not getting what we thought we would get with pictures, again, we have to be a detective. And I would say you probably start with step 2 and 4, and that is, did you teach the pictures? Did you come to an agreement with the client, the learner, of what each picture would mean to them? And did you say it as you showed it? And again, did you model? So again, we would have to go back and look at those steps. Cynthia said, when you're not successful, was it because a step was skipped? So sometimes pictures aren't enough. And again, sometimes if you did it by yourself, it doesn't mean anything to your client and learner. So again, it will work if it's the right one to do, if it captures the interest and it's the right one for your client.
So I'm going to show you teaching the pictures, because when I showed you the video of George cleaning the gym, I didn't show you all the work I had done before to teach him how to do those things. So let's watch. Hi, George. Thank you for offering to help and work in the gym to clean it up. I'm really hoping that you can clean up every time the gym closes. It closes around 6 p.m. every day. And so if you can clean between 6 and 6:30, that would be great. But before, I wanted to show you the schedule. So here's a schedule I made for you of all the different things I need you to do in cleaning the gym. So the first one is your cleaning supplies. You need to get those out. So I'm going to show you where these are. So there you go. I'm pairing the picture to what he actually needs to get out. Because if I hadn't paired the picture, he might forget a whole bunch of the things and not realize he was even supposed to do those. I need you to get out your broom, your mop. The second one is you will take your cleaning supplies to wipe down all the equipment. And I'm going to show you that now. I would need you to clean anything that anybody touches. So, you know, all of these surfaces over there, the bench, all the weights down here. And I would need you to clean the treadmill, anything that people touch. And the third one here is you would start off by sweeping the room. After you've wiped down the equipment, you would then sweep the room using the broom and the dustpan. And I'd like you to sweep the whole floor area. The next one is, and last step, is mopping the floor. So you would mop the floor. George, do you have any questions before you start?
Yeah, what's this last one here?
Oh, yes, I forgot. So this last step, that's a cupboard. So you would have to just put all your stuff away at the end. Don't leave it out in the gym because the next morning that would be a problem for all the gym members. So you'd really want to make sure to put it back in the cupboard. Okay, so you saw that last step I'd forgot to teach him. So it was good. He was able to ask, but there are some clients we work with that might not ask you. So I could not be upset if George had forgotten to put away the equipment at the end that he was cleaning with, because I hadn't actually taught him it. So just keep that in mind. When we skip steps and we skip the teaching and that really important before process, our client might not understand and might not do what we were expecting.
And I just want to draw your attention to, had we not used a visual schedule for George, just think of George's life journey, right? He is fully capable. His body is fully capable of doing the job. His mind is capable of understanding the tasks. And because he experiences difficulties with his memory and reading, he won't be able to get a job. So again, 1, 2, 3, in this example, 4 pictures is the difference for him having a job or not having a job.
Yeah. Yeah. So it does lead to the discussion of why would a client not do the task? So in this case, George asked because he might not have done it if he didn't understand it. But we need to be a detective. Before jumping that they cannot do it is, what do they not understand? Sometimes the task that is on there is too frustrating, or they might not have the skills to do it. If George had been in a wheelchair, cleaning that gym would have been a lot harder. But if you remember Walker's video, he was supported on putting on his boots and jacket. They were prepared for him. So Arnita did not expect, she probably knew he couldn't do every step perfectly by himself yet. So she set him up. She put the jacket on the floor so he could put it on the backwards method. And he wasn't able to engage the zipper. So she started it for him. And then all he had to do was finish it. So you could imagine the first time she was trying that schedule with her son, she might have seen, oh, he gets really frustrated when he can't do his zipper. So the next time she would step in to help him. So it's really important about being a detective. And when you saw Arnita's video, you'd seen her having maybe used it a few times before, but you didn't see all the work she did before in being a detective to how to make it go more successfully for Walker.
And for older kids, one of the things that you might look into when you're being the detective is discretion and embarrassment, right? If your client is social with their peers, right? They hang out with kids their age, but again, maybe they can't read or their memory isn't as strong as we'd want it to be. We're going to look at using a schedule that's more discreet. So again, it could be on their phone because, teenagers looking at their phone, no one would know what was going on. In George's case, it was on the wall. Maybe it comes down after he's finished cleaning, or Cynthia had mentioned it could be in a binder, ready to use. So again, that could be something that you would look into.
And the other thing, if it comes down to that he's not doing something right. So this, again, George was cleaning the gym and he was wiping all the equipment. Now that step had a lot of tasks just within wiping. He had to wipe all the bar, the bench, all the weights, and the treadmill. Well, with his memory problems, I started to get a little bit frustrated. That was actually the first time he was doing it. And I was like, oh, he's not cleaning everything right. But that was me. I had not laid out exactly what he had done. Instead, I started listing out all the things he had to do. Please clean this, please clean that. I did point at it. So hopefully that was a visual support helping him. But if he routinely kept forgetting something in that schedule, I have to see my red arrow there. You have to make a schedule for that specific task. So for example, I could have drawn out the bench, the bar, the weights, and the treadmill to remind him to wipe those. So If clients are missing steps or not doing a step properly, you may have made that picture too general and not specific enough or not broken down enough. Maybe you need a visual schedule for that one task in your big task. So the other thing is that we should never force again for someone to follow through on an activity. But at the same time, in George's case, it's not that I would force him if he wasn't doing all of those tasks, but I'd want to see if it was because he really didn't want to do those tasks or if he just didn't know what he had to do. So we really got to tease that out and try to help them before saying, oh, they're saying they don't want to. But we do need to make things pleasant. If cleaning a gym is not for George and it really doesn't make him happy, that would not be the job for him. Same with younger children. If we're picking a whole bunch of activities that are something that they don't want to do, for those of you that were at my sensory talk yesterday, one of the common things is that we do finger painting with little kids. Well, can you imagine if you had a child, like we talked about yesterday, that doesn't want to get their hands dirty? And now we're forcing on their schedule finger painting. Well, if I was being a detective in that case, I would pick something else. I would pick, if I wanted them to do an art with paint, and that was what the class was doing, I would pick that they get to use a paintbrush. Does it really matter? And we need to think about that when we start putting things on schedules, because the schedules are supposed to decrease stress, not increase them.
And in speaking to the educators in the classroom, when you have tasks to do and things to teach, again, what Cynthia has mentioned about being a detective, we don't always get to do everything we like. But when you're trying to teach someone some new tasks, having something that they enjoy, that motivates them, that is the preferred activity in their schedule really does help. And again, if your class, like the example of painting, if your class is coloring, there are children who don't enjoy coloring. And there's nowhere in life, the job that I'm holding, do I actually need to color. But if the activity is to practice pencil grip, pencil pressure, the pressure, because some kids are color so hard that they break the pencil. So if that's what your goal of your teaching is there something that you can change up a little bit so you're getting what you need as an educator to be teaching, but the student is getting enough of the motivation and the preferred activity within their schedule? So again, we're just giving you little hints of things that we've plowed through, messed up, had to learn, do it again a second time. And when we keep coming back to the adult as the adult needs to change, that's not blame. Trust us, we've been there, we've done that, we've messed up and had to come again. That's why we're sharing these stories. It's not about blame. It's just about in the classroom or at the clinic, we have the power of influence. We get to be making those decisions. And with that comes a responsibility to make sure that we've been a detective and we've looked into things. So I think it's one of our last ones for teaching strategy is change. My goodness, what if the schedule changes? Oh boy, we're supposed to be relieving stress and now there's a change. So let's watch a little video.
Group time. Group time. Group time. Tea time. Tea time. It's group time.
By using a visual schedule, we're able to give the children a sense of what the sequence of the day is going to be. But we also have a history to the day. So each time we look at the schedule, we say first we played, and then what did we do? And I call on everybody. And if something happens that we have to change our schedule for any reason at all, so for instance, if it starts to rain, and then Sophie, are we going outside today?
No.
No. Usually we go outside right after group, but not today.
It's
Rainy, snowy day.
So in this example, the educator, the teacher is using the X, which was again brought up by our colleagues. So the picture is the picture to show go out to play. And this time the X represents they can't do it. And again, in this instance, the teacher did not wait till it was 2 seconds before the activity. She's teaching in advance the new picture. So you can use the method of the X. You could actually remove the picture and then teach the sequence without the picture in it. And you can also have an oopsie cards. So that's depending on how you want to teach that. It could be an opportunity to say, we're not doing that today, or maybe something happened. We ran out of time in class. Again, the weather's changed. So there could be a blank or an oopsie card that covers. So you do need to be prepared for change. And you do need to prepare that change. So as soon as you know, it's time to teach the learner that there may be a possible change in the routine or in the schedule.
Yeah, and you can imagine as a child who really learns in pictures, how frustrating it is if you don't tell them with a picture that activity is not happening. It's very frustrating. And actually, many times, so people think they're doing well using a visual schedule, including me. I would do that. I would set my occupational therapy, sensory diet pictures out, and then something happened and I didn't do one of the pictures. I would often get tantrums if I didn't correctly put an X or take off the picture, because that client that was relying on those visual pictures was really counting that they were doing that activity. And I'd never taken the time to tell them, oops, today my ball is popped. We can't do the ball. Right. So it would have been up to me earlier on before the session. I knew my ball was popped. I just forgot to take it off the schedule, or I forgot to put an X. So it's no wonder my client was having a tantrum, because he wanted to do the ball.
So we've just shared with you some of our learnings over the years. So some of the common challenges that can happen and some solutions. I'm sure there's others, but really make sure you're capturing the interest. Just having a schedule is not going to solve the world's problems, right? So capture the interest, make sure that you're pairing, you're teaching, you're modeling all those steps we talked about before. And if it's not working, go back and ask yourself, did I follow all the steps? Again, there's 4 of us now who've been talking about matching the right type of schedule to the client. Knowing your client, knowing your student, learner, child's interest will really help make the schedule the best it can be for them. And again, when someone doesn't want to do something, be a detective. We're going to finish off. We have a few slides. We will have time for some questions. When we talked about when we talked about capturing interest earlier on, we talked about it being something you could touch. So now we're just going to mention it could be portable. So again, if a client relies and feels very comfortable having their schedule, you might want to make it a schedule that they can move around with. So I've made one here, and this is about brushing your teeth. And I purposely made it on an étui crayon, so a pencil case, sorry, my French, on a pencil case. And the reason I did this is we have a routine for brushing teeth at home, and we don't need a visual schedule anymore. We're old enough, it's ingrained, it's in the mind. But what happens now, we're old enough to go to a sleepover. We're old enough to go to grandma's house. It doesn't look the same. The things aren't the same color. I don't recognize myself. I'm feeling stressed. So the schedule can be right on my holder, and inside could be my toothbrush, my toothpaste. And here I go. I need to take out my toothpaste. I need to put the toothpaste on my toothbrush, and we could have it all ready to go on my travel kit. You could also just change it up, and this could just be where you put your visual schedule. If you're traveling, say you're going to the Express, so you have an appointment, you could just put all your visuals in here, because maybe you don't know what's going to happen until you get to Montreal. And then you'd have your Velcro ready to put the schedule. So this is what we're doing this morning. We're waking up at the Espresso before our appointment at the Children's, for example, and we're going to put our few things ready to go, and we're portable. So again, capturing interest, make sure we can touch it if that's what the learner wants, and making it accessible to the client, to the learner.
All right, now that we're coming really near the end of the presentation, we wanted to put it all together, and we wanted your help in the chat again. So we're going to ask you to be a detective during this activity. This is Ivy. This is our NYTUK's other child, Ivy. She's 3 years old in this video. And we want you to try to pick out at least 3 things that our NYTUK does in this video that is helping and supporting her daughter on using a visual schedule. So I'm going to play the video, and while it's playing, I'd like you to write in the chat something you've learned today that she's doing well. Okay, so it could be pairing the picture, it could be praise, it could be gestures, whatever you remember and what you notice, place it in the chat. So here we go. Let's watch Ivy getting dressed. Watch also how differently she uses the visual schedule than her brother. Her brother focuses on numbers and she focuses on the pictures.
So you want to tell me what this is?
Pants.
Your snow pants? What about this one?
Shoes.
Yeah, your boots. And what about this one?
No.
Your neck warmer. You got it. There's your toesies.
Yeah, so start writing things in the chat that you see that she's doing
Oh, where are
to
they?
help her daughter.
Oh, there it is.
Next one.
Yeah.
Next one, Mom.
The next one, we'll finish your putting on your snow pants. Can you zip it up? Yeah. Good girl. Okay, what's the next one? What's that?
Boots.
Okay, go at your boots. Good job. You got it. You want to pick it up?
No.
Do you need help? You gonna ask for help?
Yeah.
What do you say? Help me, please. Okay. Whoop. What's next? What's that?
Mama.
Okay, get your warmer on. Good job. What's next? What's that?
Coat.
Your coat? What do you need? Do you need help?
Yeah.
Okay. What's next? Okay.
What's next? Gloves.
Gloves. Okay.
Please.
Pardon?
Please help.
Sure. Ivy, are you all dressed to go outside now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have everything on?
Yeah.
Even your mitts?
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, good job.
So great. So I saw everyone was writing things in the chat. So I'm just going to finish reading that. I took some notes of what you guys were saying. So she did so many things. Yes. So you guys wrote, she cued, she reminded, she said, what's coming next? She taught the pictures. She paired the pictures to the real item. Yes, your mitts. These are your mitts. Yes, your boots. These are your boots. She was praising and praising. So people noticed a lot of praise. The younger the child, you got to keep them motivated. And that's part of actually capturing the interest. She also taught the schedule, that it was top to bottom right at the beginning. So yes, thank you for catching that in the chat. That's great. And another thing, it was top to bottom, but did you notice that Arnaituk had the schedule at Ivy's height? The schedule wasn't at Arnaituk's height way up in the air. It was right at her eye level. And that's really important when you're doing this with children. Don't expect them to follow a visual schedule that they can't see or reach. You saw how Ivy really wanted to touch that schedule. She pointed to the picture and touched the picture.
There was
So
a
yes,
really,
sorry,
sorry,
go
I
ahead.
there was this really good one. I see a conversation, and thanks, Trevor, for adding to the chat. When we look at frustration, we really want to avoid frustration growing. So yes, trying is important. And getting someone to persevere, when it's difficult, we don't want them giving up. But again, that's where you have to be a detective, and that's where you have to decide how much frustration. So when it's the first time, you don't want a lot. You really want to get in there and you want to be helping. But maybe on the third and fourth time, you wait that extra second. So I love the way Trevor wrote, she's giving the child room to persevere, but not to fail, right? This will help you in the long run. The other one that's really important, and I actually missed it the first few times, is Ivy said shoes when she saw the picture, and mom corrected with boots. She didn't say, no, you're wrong. That's not what the picture is. This was just an opportunity for vocabulary. It was an opportunity to repair the picture without drama, without frustration. She said shoes, our note-take said boots. And the next time it'll be boots again. And the next time it will be boots again until she's saying boots. So these are great pickups in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So that gives us what we wanted. We wanted to see, did you pick up all the things that go behind visual schedules, all the work that you need to do to pair and to model? So thank you so much for participating.
So we are coming to our closing. I want to go back a second. I see something else in there about lowering tension. And our colleague said this to us when we were doing a practice run. If there's stress involved in this for the learner, if this schedule is causing stress, then this visual schedule is not a support. So you need to go back and look, was it pairing the pictures? Was it the wrong, the pictures don't mean something to the learner? Again, this is a support to grow independence, to relieve tension, to relieve stress, build vocabulary, all these beautiful blossoming things. So our closing message really is very similar to our colleagues. It's about trying and not giving up. And we've showed you a few different ways to create it. Again, if you're artsy and you enjoy doing this and you have a child that like a client who's ADHD, right, and who loves to draw and is very creative, you're going to want to do it with them. You want to build that. And if it's really someone who doesn't have that capacity or is not able to, you're going to make it for them after learning about their interests, and you're going to try it out. Visual schedules work. And they're needed by many clients, not just those with disabilities. That's our focus. That's our department. But again, I enjoy them. I need them in certain occasions. And we hope that from the two presentations, you stop the idea, if you had it, or you celebrate and get the message out there that it's not just for kids. It's not for like preschool, pictures for preschool age. It's really across the lifespan that this is a support. So visual schedules are right for people with disabilities. And the reason I say that is for someone who can't walk, their support could be their wheelchair or crutches or a cane. They may not need it all the time, but it is their right to have that support. So I mentioned in our presentation that many people have difficulty with language, comprehension. They might get overwhelmed with too much information coming at them all at once. So we're going back to this visual schedule is a support, and it should be offered.
Absolutely. So that being said, the last thing I'd like you to do before you leave here is on your paper, on your hand, I want you to think about who you will go and try this with. Who will you try a visual schedule with in the next 48 hours? Because research shows that if you try something you learned in the next 48 hours, you will more likely use it in the future and keep practicing. But if you don't try what we practiced today with someone in your life, you will probably never use it. So I really want you to make a commitment, write the name or the task you want that person to write a visual schedule for, and try using it. Remember, the first time you do it is your practice too. You will not be perfect. You're going to run into the same little hurdles that Amy and I ran into when we were using visual schedules, but you'll learn from it. And hopefully you will make visual schedules more accessible to people with disabilities and even beyond that. So thank you so much for your time today. And we'll have a little bit of time for some questions.